Дорогие друзья, хотелось бы немного рассказать о...
Dear friends, I would like to tell you about networking tab on our website. You can select the most convenient format for communications there. Let me remind you that we have this rule of chat, just like in any chat. So, swearing is prohibited, so if you use those bad words, you'll be blocked. So, also you go to our Telegram chat, where you'll be able to talk to your friends, colleagues, on the subjects of predilection. And also you can write personal messages and then receive personal messages. Don't be worried, you will not miss one, because you'll be notified about them. If you have not registered at the startupvillage.ru website, do it, to make sure that these 2 days with us will be as productive as possible. So let's move on to our session. It's called Star Trek, the Era of Smart Cities. With every year, urban life has become safer and easier. Smart city technology is not something that will materialize in the next few years, but this is a reality that we have here now. What kind of objectives future cities will face? We'll be dealing with the most important city, which city can be truly called a smart city. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, friends. Welcome to this wonderful platform of Startup Village in Skolkovo. In this session, a Star Trek Smart City, you know that technological changes, economic changes, and changes in multiple industries from education to medicine over the last decade led to the fact that new computer technologies and AI and neural networks, they have become part of our life, an integral part of our life. And they are with us everywhere. They're in our smartphones, they're in our apartments, they're in our smart cities. Yes. And we use them at home. We face digital smart technologies when we're out in the street, on the subway, in our own cars. So we drive them. If we fly planes, they're there. So they're omnipresent. Those digital solutions are ubiquitous. And if we talk about major, large cities, they're central to this situation. 71% of people live in urban areas statistically. These are recent figures that are published by Russian Statistics Agency. We talk about smart cities or smart village or smart settlement. We understand that they cannot be created unless they have internet there. Recently, 30 minutes ago, with our colleagues, we've discussed at RBK channel about digital infrastructure, how they can become part of the city, what kind of neural networks are needed, etc., etc. So all is boiled down to the fact how accessible internet is to us, and a smart country is such if we have smart cities in it. Definition of a smart city, what it should be like, it's a result of our ongoing search our constant activities. And one way or the other, it's a public-private partnership when government or city authorities, along with entrepreneurs, look for solutions to make sure human life in those urban areas become more comfortable. And there is this comfortable urban economy and environment. So those actions result from joint efforts. And at Skolkovo platform here, we can see how these solutions, which are developed and how ideas generated in the minds of entrepreneurs become pilot projects at first, then they become comprehensive solutions to be implemented in the cities. So let's discuss all of those things. Let's take a look at different examples, what entrepreneurs do and also what government authorities or city authorities do. Let me present our speakers today. Leslie Nudboom, Humanizing Autonomy co-founder, Jose Antonio Ondivela, Smart Cities Director of Microsoft in Western Europe, Tira Blomqvist, Kara Clan founder. Also, we'll be talking with Eduard Lysenko from Moscow city government, from the IT department, and an offline, which is a new opportunity where we can talk face-to-face with the Director for Digital Development of Baikal Center. So, hello everyone. I'm so happy to see you all, both online and offline. My first question is about the balance of public and private contribution to the development of urban environments. I would like to start with Tero Blomqvist from Finland, who's an entrepreneur and investor who works in a smart city. So, Tero, here's my question. So, do you think if ubiquitous implementation of smart cities will lead to more globalization and more interaction between cities, between countries, or on the opposite? It will be a reason for a kind of isolated situation where you have an enclave and cities will be more apart because they'll be focused on themselves with a closed cycle.
Thank you. So greetings from Tampere, Finland. Nice to be in this meeting or this webinar or seminar together with you. Very good question. Very good question, and I'm not sure that is there one single answer for that, but I think that when we are looking the smart cities and the interactions between the smart cities, it's super important that cities takes more responsibility and carry the direction to show that how we are building the cities, smart cities in this planet. So even the countries, in many cases, countries are different and they have a different kind of means how they want to push the things forward, but the one common denominator for the cities, many cities, is that they want to come to smart. And those common denominators inside those cities are many times similar. So those cities are places where we have a lot of people. Those people, they have a need for the certain kind of services in there which need to be managed to produce in sustainable and efficient way. And this need is same for the all places. Without looking at what is the place where those cities are located. And when we are building the smart cities, the key targets for those cities is that we manage to productize quality and sustainable services for people who are living in there. We have a capability to build environment for the companies to create and make business. And then we want to be a sustainable. So we want to productize the services in sustainable manner so that all coming generations can enjoy about those cities. So I think that the interaction between the cities are super important, and the interactions between the countries who are helping these cities to come smart, it is also very important.
Спасибо большое. Очень интересное мнение.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting. I know that you have a lot of track record of working in implementing solutions in cities. And this year, a pilot testing will be completed on smart Tampere, from what I know. I don't know if I said it right, Tampere, right? So I have this question. So using this as an example, so those results that you may already see based on the results of the pilot, so was it possible, were you able to create a smart city? So can we have put together 4 or 5 criteria and say that city is smart, but that other city still needs to develop and implement some solutions, maybe solution 1, 2, and 3 need to be added, and then it will be a smart city. And as a follow-up, so did you measure maybe or assess, did you do any polls among the people, so whether the quality of life improved in those areas?
Yes, about the measurement. So when we are defining the benchmarking for the cities, it is not necessary that one benchmarking criteria match for the all cities, but in globally they have been developed different kind of ways to measure the smartness of the cities. But when we are looking more detailed those benchmarkings, it's very evident that for example these green values, they are more and more rising the expectations. So how, when we are developing the new services, that how we can build those services so that they are sustainable, they are reducing less and less energy, they are more coal-free, etc. So this is very important criteria in the smart city development as such. The second one is that how those money what we are investing for the cities, that how it is coming back when we are, for example, supporting the private sector actors through this public-private partnership deals to build new services, new infrastructures, new concert event halls or any this kind of places for the cities, that how well we manage to return that invested money back for the city, so that we can see that business is growing in there. And then the third one is that how satisfies the citizens are for the services what we are producing. So what it means in the practice is that how we are creating the value. So when we are creating the value, of course this investment value is one, but then we have also social value in there, we have educational value, so how our universities are serving the people, and then we have a society values. And these elements of the values are important in that benchmarking when we are measuring the cities. So there are those 3 topics. One is the sustainability, one is the return of the investments, and then we have different elements of the value. So I think that those are the most important when we are measuring the success of the smart cities.
Спасибо большое. Интересные.
Thank you very much. That was interesting. Interesting indicators. Hopefully our cities will use them, this approach of adding added value, not only for the investor or the designer, those who get return on their investments, but also added value for people who live there. Like Taro said, sustainable growth and the value that is created by a smart city for its people. It is very important. And we should this is important for understanding where Russian cities will become smart. Thank you for your answers, Taro. And our next speaker will talk about AI, artificial intelligence, whether it will be able to help or predict how to do a city smarter, safer, how traffic can become safer, which is one of the key elements of a smart and safe city, a digital city. Leslie Nudabun, Humanizing Autonomy co-founder. So here's a question for you, just to continue this dialogue with Taro. So the first example that Taro cited was about existing cities, smart tempera. This is what is out there. There was an existing area. But if we could look into the future and start building a city from scratch, so how could we use this behavioral AI to design in the proper way how traffic and roads are organized? So maybe it's better to do it from scratch, to develop a city from scratch, because we have new areas for development. It's possible to do it. We have new urban areas. So maybe AI should be used for those purposes, for benefits. So not to do it only digitally.
Yes, for sure. I mean, if you could start from scratch anywhere, you can use the latest technology in every place and make sure it's optimized. But I don't think many countries have the luxury to start from scratch. And it's also a very expensive approach. So we realized this quite early on in our journey. We developed a technology called behavior AI, which basically predicts the behavior of humans, pedestrians, and makes it understandable for automated systems. We started with fully autonomous, so fully self-driving vehicles to understand pedestrian behavior so that they can drive more safely through crowded cities. But quite quickly, we realized that actually this is a much more difficult problem that will take very long for a startup to be relevant in the near term, which meant that we started shrinking our technology so that it fits on smaller chips and even making it work in the cloud so that you don't need powerful processing units in your device, in your vehicle, or even in your city camera system. And that allows the technology to make use of any existing infrastructure. All you really need is a camera and to capture the data. And once you have those two, you can already generate really valuable insights. You can generate insights about how people are using public infrastructure. You can generate insights about how safely current day vehicles that have a dash cam are driving around pedestrians. You can generate information about how people move through a city, how they interact with other road users, and how you could potentially improve the urban infrastructure over time. So, of course, if you have the choice to build a megacity from scratch, I would say put very high resolution cameras on every corner of the street, inside every vehicle, put the best GPU, so graphical processing unit, in every vehicle and every camera. But I can promise you that that's a far bigger challenge than if you would just make use of existing infrastructure and generate insights from that. So this is something that we are doing at the moment in the US, Japan, the UK, Germany, and France, both from the perspective of roadside units, so cameras that are placed in the streets, and cameras that are placed inside the vehicles. And what's really exciting is if you match the two. So if you have insights from fleets that are driving through cities, like, for example, fleets owned by governments, and you match that up with the roadside infrastructure, you can really understand and start to understand how you can make that city safer for road users, more efficient for all road users, and also a more pleasant environment to live in. Because I think that's a really important trade-off that you're making. When does it become safer? When does it become more efficient? And when does it become more pleasant for the citizens? And that's, I think, the big challenge that you have in improving any city worldwide.
Спасибо большое, да, очень интересные.
Thank you very much. Indeed, great examples. Well, yes, you spoke about USA and Japan and other countries which are using these technologies, and I have a following question. I would like, so you already started to answer this question, but let's speak about the lessons for the existing cities. How the safety and security can be improved. And I think that the behavior of the drivers as well has to be changed in order to reduce the amount of traffic jams, for example, to have more efficient management of the traffic. And if we're talking about Russia, so all of us are, although we are online, we are still in Startup Village in Russia. So what do you think? How exactly could we use this technology in Russia? And, well, I think it's a very tricky question, I guess. I wonder how it's going to be translated. So, how does the mentality of a nation affect the result of your AI usage? Where can we use the solution which were implemented in other cities? Can we use those technologies in Russia, or is it something you need to learn yet?
No, you can definitely use it. All you need is access to the camera data. So in Russia, you do already have roadside cameras. There's actually far more dash cams inside vehicles in Russia than in most other countries. So this is a very valuable source of data that you can generate insights from. You do need to have some sort of method to be able to capture the data, but that also depends on who you work with. Do you work with the owners of the fleets? Do you work with the government? Do you work with the individual consumers? And for all those stakeholders, you can already provide very valuable insights. So based on our previous deployments, we've been able to highlight hotspots in cities where we know that there are frequent accidents or even near misses. So that's a risky area where there might be an accident in the future based on the development of the roads as they are now. So already cities in the UK, for example, have used that information to put in place temporary infrastructure so that already you can improve the safety of that certain area in the city. Actually, the coronavirus was a very insightful period because we realized that because we knew the distances from people, from each other, from vehicles, we were able to understand whether people were socially distancing in, for example, transportation hubs. We did work like this with Transport for Greater Manchester. So Manchester is one of the big cities in the UK, where we were able to tell them, hey, these areas in your train station aren't suitable for social distancing. So put in place more signage to remind people, put in place fencing so people cannot go close to each other, and even improve the routing schedules of your buses so that you don't have crowded buses and people can keep distance from each other. So it can go really far. It's not just about preventing accidents. It is about understanding behavior of people, how they use the city, how they use the infrastructure, and how they use the transportation systems within it, so that you can not only make it safer in terms of accidents, but also in interaction between the people, between the vehicles, and optimize the efficiency of the entire city system. And you don't need any high-tech technology for this. You will need cameras, and you will need to be able to access the camera data.
Спасибо большое, но вопрос про менталитет пока еще.
Well, thank you, but the mentality question is still open. But definitely we understand that we can use this technology, and it would be a pleasure to discuss it within the web program. So, you know, we have Web 100 Cities program, within the framework of which we are working with mayors, with entrepreneurs, in order to make 100 cities better, more interesting. We will simply choose a couple of pilots for you. And I think we should try this behavioral AI in different regions, starting from Kamchatka, which is in the east of Russia and down to Kaliningrad, to the west parts of the country, and we will see how it works. And I have another question to our next speaker, Jose Antonio Ondiviela, representative of Microsoft, Western Europe Smart Cities Director. So, what place does Microsoft see for itself in the development of the concepts of smart cities? Maybe you already have some examples in which cities Microsoft has been participating very actively. Maybe you can share some results, some insights, in order for us to improve the programs of making cities smarter and smarter, to use the best technologies from the world's giants.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me to this wonderful event. Just to answer your question, the role of Microsoft is the following. We are a computing and storage provider. So we are providing the horizontal platform, and we have a large community of partners that are providing any vertical solution that is finally offering or deploying any capacity in a smart city. Okay, so we are basically integrating all these solutions in a comprehensive platform that we call Urban Data Platform. So all those solutions will work together. This is very important because most of the cities are installing or are purchasing isolated solutions that are finally not integrating with the same data and are not providing the expected value. So we are working as a kind of integrator. So we have all of our, again, partners delivering this value. For example, we are talking about Tampere. In Tampere, we have a partner called WAPICE, and they have developed the full IoT system in Tampere, including the street lights. And it's a large project, and they are using all sensors, all software, all artificial intelligence algorithms to control the node, and all of these solutions are based on Azure, on our cloud platform. So we are providing the computing power to make this happen. We have a massive number of data centers across the world. It's the largest number of them. We have more data centers than Amazon or Google together, okay? And we are working with all this information. And something very important is that we are treating the confidential information from the cities under the most strict rules. So something the customers can trust, okay? And something that is very important for the future of smart cities, because we need to combine information from the digital, from the physical world, from the things that we are monitoring with very sensitive data from citizens. And we need to protect especially this information, and managing this, complying with the latest regulations like the European Union GDPR. So that's basically our role.
Спасибо большое. Интересный подход.
Thank you very much. It's a very interesting approach indeed. And, of course, provision of computing powers and the storage space is very important. And in this case, we are talking about creation of buses which are uniting various systems. And, of course, security is very important indeed. And I have a question. So what do you think? There is a fear among people that a smart city might not be something safe. It looks like a big brother which is actually watching over you. And where is the border between the level of security and the full reveal of information, personal information for the government? So to say, the big brother is watching you.
Well, I can understand that we all have seen a lot of science fiction movies presenting dystopian worlds. I have counted more than 200 of these movies. They are presenting futuristic worlds where machines have taken over the control of everything, and humans are mere slaves. Okay, this is science fiction. Okay, this is not the reality. we need to place the citizen at front and ahead of everything we do. Technology is just an enabler. It's a tool to serve the citizen. And we are managing a massive amount of information, of data about the city, about the citizens, with the only purpose to improve the quality and quantity of services to the citizens. So do we need to take recordings of one camera inputs? Maybe. If we are protecting a very crowded space like an airport or a train station, we need to serve the citizens. So we need to understand what's going on, suspicious movements. We need to manage this crowded space, and we need to remember that we are under terrorist attacks or terrorist threats. So we need to protect our people, but we need to be super respectful. We need to use artificial intelligence algorithms with the highest ethical principles. Okay, we don't need to send images from our people or our citizens' faces to the cloud or to other places. No. We need to understand and analyze this information on the edge, so we are very near to the device, and then determine whether those are goods or bads. So delivering the capabilities that our citizens are demanding, but always very respectful with the citizens' privacy, not managing this without any security restrictions. So the answer is yes. If we need to provide the value, then we need to balance and always being very respectful with security and never becoming a big brother.
Спасибо большое. Мне очень отрадно слышать.
Thank you very much. I'm really glad to hear that our European partners, our European colleagues, are putting the citizens in front of everything, and we heard it from lots of people. So the citizen is above all the digital technologies. This is really great to hear. And it actually goes alongside the approach of our government as well. Because we are talking about client centricity and the creation of services and the state support for the citizen, and that it is most vital part of everything. And we already saw that all the technologies, all the digital industry is working and doing its best to create the value for the citizens first of all. We spoke about big cities, we spoke about new technologies, implementation of AI, and of course we thought about huge territories, cities and locations. But we still have cities which are not metropolises, which are smaller. And right now I would like to switch to an example of a Russian city. And I give floor to Apollon Larin. So he is a chief digital officer and CTO of Baikal Center. They are developing the Baikalsk city and the territory around it. So Apollon, Baikalsk has a great experience of transforming the city. And if I can say so, it has a very polluting production, and it's transforming Baikalsk into eco-friendly center of innovations. Could you please tell us, what stage are you on right now? Are you coming closer to the concept of the smart city which we have been discussing, and what lies ahead?
Thank you very much, Oleg, for that. Can you hear me okay? Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. WebRF is involved with Baikalsk. You may not have heard of this town, but you may have heard of Baikal pulp and paper mill, which is located right there. So the goal for ourselves and our parent company is to transform this industrial site of this mill, to transform this town itself. So it's a large site, industrial site. It's 800 hectares. So it's almost half of the city. So it's not so much about transforming the town, it's about building a town from scratch, because things will be cleared, cleaned, cleansed. It will be a new entity. So that's the uniqueness of our project. And also this project of comprehensive development that I was mentioned, it's being implemented with a master plan, so which is a new thing for Russia as well. So WEB has been doing that actively, and ourselves, for the first time, we developed a master plan of a town with digital strategy of its development in place. So we're building this town from scratch, pretty much. Not just specific separate industries that we're looking at. Of course, we look at the experience of Moscow. Moscow is a role model in Russia for us, definitely. We looked at international experience as well. But of course, Moscow is 13 million people, and in Baikal we have 13,000 people. So which is can be an advantage or also a disadvantage. But since it's done by WEB, so people are very engaged, and you, Oleg, and your team would like to thank you. So you are proposing projects from your pipeline, and we'll be using them for different areas. So the uniqueness of our approach is that we developed a concept of building a city or a town from scratch, and a priori it will be a smart city with its infrastructure, with platform solutions, and specific projects for specific areas or industries. And that's what I wanted to mention. Such cities exist, and I think you should watch the situation. So our milestones are 2025, and by 2040 it will be a unique town in Russia that will be built from scratch, a smart city. It's also a sustainable city. Excellent. Leslie, sometimes we have a place for new cities to create them from scratch, so we can use your behavioral AI and we can test it. Why not? And other solutions as well. We can learn from Taro. So you've been part of this project for quite a while. You've seen various options, and you developed your master plan, which is a new thing in building cities. And so I have this question for you. So some people say, and we heard it today, especially when that comparison was done with sci-fi movies, that a smart city is a digital center which is kind of far away from nature, far from nature. It's just robots, flying cars, etc. So how can you combine modern urban development and nature? Can they be combined? How nature can be part of a modern city? That's a good question. Moreover, cases that I cited, Baikalsk is located in the Baikal area. There are multiple restrictions there, and there is a special federal law on protection of the Baikal Lake. So of course we have some red lines there. So we cannot harm environment. So whether we develop tourism or digital areas, so oftentimes they say, environmental activists oftentimes say, if 10 people walk in the forest where there's no path, they will make some damage to the environment. So if you have a path there already in place, then 10 million people can walk and do no harm to the environment. So from that perspective, digital technologies will be helpful in protecting the environment because we look at comprehensive systems of environmental monitoring of air, water, soil, etc. So also to preserve the Baikal Lake. But also we have very stringent requirements and standards. If we lay a fiber cable or whatever, we need to keep in mind all those stringent standards. And digital technologies do help to protect the environment. On the other hand, they're not harmful in themselves, and urban technologies and nature are not in contradiction with each other. Thank you very much for that. You know, recently I was having this conversation with an entrepreneur, and IT people and programmers help people to have a different perspective on their jobs. They used to go to their offices where they would spend from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., but now they can be part of the same team and work from different parts of the world. And as colleagues mentioned before, we can prioritize added value and improve the quality of life. And your interesting project and successful project hopefully is a great example of that. So hopefully it will be implemented. This is not a commonplace project, which it's quite unique. You'll be building a unique city, a digital city, with a wonderful quality of life for its people. Hopefully you will not have only 13,000 people, maybe 10 times as many. And you will be receiving tourists as well, I hope. Speaking of, so we talked about small towns. A small town, as you said, has its own advantages. It's small, things can be done quicker, and you can see the results and from implementation certain things. But when you have a major city such as Moscow, so it's also it's also a difficult thing to deal with. And Moscow city government has been running for 10 years a digital city program, and I think IT infrastructure is quite developed now. And many services are provided, and all of us have used those services. We can, call for a taxi, and we can track public transportation, etc. in real time. So Eduard Lysenko is here from the Department of IT. He was a minister in the Moscow city government. Thank you for joining us, Eduard. So Moscow, from my perspective, is a very convenient city to live. In terms of document management and public services, they're all provided online. It's very convenient. And we have public services centers, how they are working. So what new solutions are you preparing? What do you have in your pipeline? Some new things for all of us to enjoy. Good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation and for this opportunity to speak. So when we talk about a major city like Moscow, it's a lot of responsibility that is involved there. So people who live there, they have their demands and needs, and which are permanently changing. And then you have businesses. So our activities are impacted by that ecosystem of people and machines and cars in the city. So it's like a butterfly effect. So which is there with those 13 million people. So we have an ecosystem of applications. We have a mayor's website, which is a one-stop shop for Muscovites. So, and it's not only for individuals, but it's also for businesses. So they can do a lot online. And then we have companies that have their own ecosystems like Yandex, Sber, and others. and 50 million visits through those channels per day, and also people have a chance to visit physically. They can come and get a service face-to-face as well. But in the future, the key thing will be the first thing to minimize a human role, the role of a public official when a decision is made. So when people come for a decision, we want to get rid of that subjective approach. So we want to use AI in all the areas of urban life. So we're running a couple of projects in that area. The most successful one, it's in transport and in medicine. But also when you deal with municipal issues, when people interact or businesses interact with city authorities, we've been experimenting in those areas as well. And we want to make that interaction as legally significant as possible. So if you have a chatbot that talks to a human person, so you can, the audio recording of that conversation should be reviewed, should be accepted in the court. Another area is super services or being proactive or productivity of services. But we want to go beyond that. We see that the city can provide more. So private ecosystems and ecosystems of the city may overlap, and people may have a personalized package of services. So, which is also an important area. So just like with AI, we actively study various solutions, small ones and big ones, so to provide those personalized packages of services. So for an individual, that might be quite important. And the city can do it only when its infrastructure, its management systems are adapted or have been adapted or will be adapted to the situation. So when we develop those technologies, pandemic, of course, was a contributing factor. So consumption of digital services was up by 70% in the city, and including private companies. So we had to review our production model and internal management model. So in an ongoing basis, we work in these things. Construction activities are the largest in the country in terms of scope. So whether we talk about residential construction or building infrastructure, and all of that is done with digital twins. And we use BIM design and digital control of construction. So that really accelerated processes of document preparation and other. And also safety and security are important areas. And we use digital technologies for them as well. So with the video analytics, as it was mentioned, and Jose talked about experiments with video analytics. So we work and develop that as well. We have the largest video surveillance system in Europe, even though compared to Asian cities it's not as impressive, but still we use the video big data from those flosses, from also dash cams from municipal vehicles, because they travel, they commute, they go around the city, they clean city streets from snow, for example, and they have those small cameras on them. So we need to get that data, we need to capture it to analyze and identify spots that need repair, or maybe identify some problems, traffic problems among them. And there's some other examples. So by obtaining services digitally, you may not know how it works, but when you developed in a balanced way an ecosystem for environment protection, those who lived in Moscow over the last 10 years, I guess you've seen that. So many roads and many streets have seen trees being planted along them. And we use digital technologies to monitor situation, to create comfortable urban environment, which is a priority for us. So to make it comfortable for people, for their sexualization, for them to enjoy our city. Thank you very much. Very interesting plans in Moscow, and we do hope that we'll be able to see it come true. You're invited to walk in the streets of Moscow and see how digital services work. Their quality and how everything is done on time. Moderators tell me that our session comes to an end. Colleagues, thank you very much for this great and interesting dialogue. So we came to this point that digital solutions implemented in the cities, they should be primarily aimed at people to improve their lives. So goodbye, we'll see you at other sessions of Startup Village. Have a good day and bye-bye.
При низких температурах окружающей среды тела быстро теряют энергию. Но нахождение вблизи источника тепла позволяет телу получать тепловое излучение. Происходит самопроизвольное перераспределение тепла. Следовательно, когда источники тепла находятся вместе, их энергия побеждает холод. Лучшее создается вместе. Газпромбанк.
МТС Стартап Хаб. Работа с реальным бизнес-заказчиком МТС. Доступ к ресурсам самого крупного телеком-бренда в России. Не можешь поверить? А в твой стартап обязательно поверят. У нас есть все, что тебе понадобится. Ресурсы, клиенты, технологии, каналы продаж. Мы оценим твой продукт, правильно применим в своем бизнесе и масштабируем на мировой рынок. МТС Стартап Хаб ждет тебя и твоих нереальных бизнес-идей.